Hey, what to do, YouTube? It's your boy, Joaq. Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing another video essay. This time on Squid Games Season 3. I made a video on Season 2 when that wrapped up at the time, and I talk about some of the ways I feel like the show let me down, big time. But those failings and what Season 2 was starting to set up are what got me so hyped for Season 3 in the first place. But to explain what I mean, we have to start all the way back and recall the political dynamics and messaging that the writers are trying to get across in Season 1. Season 1 Squid Games. Season 1 made it clear that gi-hun was not only a bum, but he was deadass a regular dude. A shitty father, a shitty son, and can't stop gambling to save his own mother's life. It's easy to dismiss this as degeneracy and gross alcoholism that warrants gi-hun deserving to be a homeless, worthless loser, which is a pretty American conservative, fucked up perspective to have, but it's worth noting why he was in such a rough situation to begin with. A quick look at the wiki, as well as some additional information mentioned in conversation with Yoongbei in Season 2, reminds us that gi-hun worked on Assembly Team 1 at Dragon Motors, along with his best friend Park Jung-bae, for 17 years. He was later laid off and went on strike with his other employees. During the strike, one of his co-workers died. This happened to be the same day his daughter, Song Gae-young, was born. In the following years, gi-hun ran a restaurant called Gae-young's Chicken, and later a snack bar, both of which eventually failed, and he worked as a chauffeur for 5 years. Gi-hun was still working as a chauffeur by the time we meet him in Season 1, and he even directly says that his pay doesn't even cover the interest payments on the loans. Bro has done nothing but grind and fight in his own economy, unfortunately at great personal sacrifice in missing the birth of his daughter, which became a wedge in his marriage. Working was never going to be enough to actually be able to live a life, period. Which is why gi-hun and Yoongbei fought for better wages to begin with in their car manufacturing job. What choice does a dude have in a situation like that but to take the little money you have to begin with and go gambling? Or we can pretend to be classy and entrepreneurial about it and do stocks or even less stable and straight up scammy crypto. Or we can just have fun and sports bet. When you're doomed anyways, what do you have to lose by trying to win it all? That is an attitude a lot of Americans have too. Think about it. How many friends do y'all have that are big-time crypto bros? How many of y'all have chatted with your Uber driver who actually Ubers on the side and really manages 2 different gas station locations despite having 2 degrees from another country, and he was really excited or nerding out over crypto coins? It truly does feel like a lifeline, and when it comes to crypto and stocks, they're designed to hold the pretense of legitimacy to get people to overlook their inherent gambling nature. We're not even gonna talk about how the rich are the only ones who even have a chance of profiting off of that shit anyways. Let's get back to Squid Games. That is the situation that gi-hun finds himself in when he is approached with one last new gambling opportunity that might be able to save his and his mother, who doesn't have healthcare and can't afford diabetes medicines, life. The Squid Games. Squid Games! Squid Games! Gi-hun is approached by the recruiter with the opportunity to win money at an explicitly physical cost rather than financial. We'll dive further into the recruiter later, but that opportunity sounds even better than normal gambling, given how much those inevitable financial losses destroy the imaginary hypothetical goal of breaking even and not having debt anymore, so you can finally start trying to live again. It's important to remember that gambling is a business model. Prize picks, Vegas, shitcoin, everything except for the Trump casino, skill issue, separate thing, is designed for the gambler to lose, so the company makes a profit. As much as the odds are against you and rigged systemically under capitalism to begin with, gambling companies are that system manifested and turned into a marketed alternative solution to those systemic financial woes. I will not be diving into the specifics of all of the awesome and fascinating characters that are in the same situation as gi-hun, because, as badass as that shit was, shout out my boy Ali. All I want to stress from Season 1 is the world building that is being set up. The writers are trying to mirror the inequalities, injustices, and reasoning behind game participation that exists in the same vein in real life. The old man I will make an exception for, insofar as how it relates to the show's overall capitalistic politics, which contrast the more micro rather than macro, cultural and economic factors that are the focus and intent of the other characters in Season 1. The old man had no reason to participate in the game. He was the VIP for decades. He had his fortune and his ability to live secured. Why risk it for no reasons whatsoever? Every other character desperately needs this money, and the old man does not. While there is something to be said about the way the wealthy feel the need to endlessly profit and extract wealth from others, I think what the writers were intending was to represent a sentiment that is what defines the population's willingness to descend into such hyper late-stage capitalism and even worship billionaires to begin with. We all, unfortunately, even subconsciously believe in a meritocracy. What is meritocracy? Meritocracy is the faulty idea that hard work generates wealth. Good things happen to people who work hard and deserve it. You too can work hard enough and become a billionaire. You're not just a poor person, you're a future billionaire who's just a little bit behind. Those two attitudes, that meritocracy exists, it doesn't. And that we all have the same opportunity to hoard vast amounts of wealth too, also wrong, is what directly leads us to embrace billionaires in society and politics and culture, and even allow for hyper-capitalistic legislation and entrepreneurship to dominate our reasoning for why a poor person is poor, because they deserve it, or to resist social services from being implemented, like healthcare. Why should we pay for those poor people's stuff? And by stuff, it's their ability to live, actually. This false notion of meritocracy is also the reason the old man felt like he had to go into the game. He lived a life of complete luxury and comfort, and as he related in the big reveal to Gi-hun, he was sick and actively dying. He was gonna go anyways! He had nothing to really lose, and he was hoping that participating in the games would mend the hole in his soul that feels like he doesn't deserve the life he had. Ultimately, the old man didn't even end up dying in the games, obviously. This is a direct reflection of real-life differences in stakes. Not only was he only competing for pride rather than his life, his present, his future, but he couldn't even fully commit to being held by the same standards as his would-be peers. He gets bailed out by the guards, like a certain dumbass billionaire who couldn't even run a casino properly. He had no consequences to his actions, to his life, or his participation in a system that actively harms and extracts values out of everyone else he sees. Okay, that was all for Season 1. I remember when the Squid Games first came out, back in 2021. It's time for Season 2. Squid Games! Absolute Squid Games! Season 2 had me so excited because of the cliffhanger moment at the end of Season 1, where Gi-hun boldly declares that somehow he will stop the Squid Games from continuing. How do we stop this system that perpetuates such apathy, greed, and violence? Tell me, Squid Game writers, what is the move? I'm asking the boys as well, but you know. Anyways, Season 2 I felt started a slow burn, kind of homoerotic, at least for me, ideological battle between the characters of Gi-hun and the frontman that was intentionally modeled after Cho Sang-woo from the first season, who represented the individualistic consumption incentive present in capitalism, which contrasts from Gi-hun's representation and struggle around community. But with every betrayal and secret between the two being Gi-hun and frontman, meant to represent the intentions of the billionaire class that hosts the games to begin with. This ideological battle starts way before we even arrive at the games, in the form of the recruiter. We got back to the recruiter again. He was my favorite character in Season 2 in his limited time there, and he was meant to be a true believer in the Squid Games capitalist system, and he got his start, which he reveals to Gi-hun, as a lower-level Squid Games employee. You can clearly see how the perpetuated false notion of meritocracy has given bro a bit of a god complex and true dedication to loyalty and belief in the system that he was able to profit off of. He got lucky. The recruiter was lucky enough to be hired as an employee rather than a participant, and he was lucky enough to get promoted as far as he was. He views his good luck and opportunity that was not given to the participants anyways as a sure meritocracy-endorsed sign that he must be special and chosen for the slightly better off fate. His chosen, somewhat affluent supremacy he bears proudly, and it extends even further than just within his role as the recruiter. With his own money, the recruiter gambles with homeless people and asks them whether they want a piece of bread that can feed them now, or a lottery ticket that could have the opportunity to maybe even change their life and get them off the street. The recruiter makes sure that all of the homeless people can see him, visibly offering everybody the same choice between gambling for a chance to come back to a life of respectable dignity and eating not even a full meal. Obviously, the homeless people recognize that a single piece of bread is not even a full meal and not nearly as valuable as being able to actually get a place to sleep for the night, and so they're incentivized by the system to gamble their food away for a chance at a better life. At the end, the recruiter, and this was my favorite example of his gross supremacist framework, stomps on all of the leftover slices of bread for no reason other than to extract pleasure from the saddened faces of the homeless people who weren't lucky enough to have won something less likely than getting struck by lightning and now have nothing to eat. His delight at the majority of homeless people choosing the lottery tickets he channels into stomping the remainder of the bread in front of everybody. It was done to punish them, to make them feel less than for not only not choosing the quote-unquote correct option, but for not being lucky enough to have won anything from that gamble. The recruiter's ideology is rooted in believing that he is special. The recruiter represents someone who has worked within the evil part of the system and thinks that he not only had the good luck of being in a position to work for the Squid Games people, but he was lucky and skilled enough to climb up their ladder. Those homeless people, because they weren't lucky enough to win big, deserve to be homeless in the eyes of the recruiter. This is explicitly where a steadfast belief in meritocracy takes you. It takes away your ability to empathize, to be a fucking human being. Anyways, that was the most badass scene in season 2. But now let's get to the second most badass scene, the confrontation between gi-hun and the recruiter. Gi-hun, who had spent his winnings on weapons and ammunition and goons, was confronted by the recruiter and asked to play one last game, an ideological one. While this again comes out of the recruiter's supremacy, this also symbolized a quote-unquote had a fight within the system, so to speak, or at least kind of sort of on their terms. They played Russian roulette, and gi-hun agrees to play by the ideological framework of game participation for prizes in order to beat the recruiter in both the game and in philosophy. At the end of the roulette, even though the recruiter knows the next and final remaining chamber has to be the bullet, the recruiter chooses to pull the trigger anyway, smiling as he does so because he truly believes that he just might be special enough to win the game despite the odds, and if not, then maybe it's what he deserved. This sets up gi-hun's ideological uphill battle through game participation. He has to somehow win while not giving into the cruelty of both the game and the desperation of players who truly just want a chance to live like normal people do in society again. In both instances of the bread homeless game and the Squid Games themselves, the conditions are rigged to begin with. The billionaire class would like free to believe that homeless people deserve to be homeless. They must have made poor choices or done too many drugs, and they're unlucky. That mentality disregards the real-life factors at play, like the hyper-capitalistic culture in both South Korea and the United States, and the direct way that the 1% contributes to the impoverishment of the needy. That mentality is what is believed by both the recruiter, the frontman, and the sniper killer lady, who all have varying relationships with how they view the fortune of others. The recruiter delights in how special he feels and loves to rub it in homeless people's faces for the love of the game. The sniper killer lady feels bad about it, but feels like there's nothing she can do, and she might as well lean into what is giving her her luck anyway. The front man defends not only the system that allows for rampant inequality, but also, I think, truly believes that the Squid Games are a genuine, kind, generous lifeline that mimics his perceived reality that life is a zero-sum game. One person gaining means another person suffering. This is not only an incorrect way of viewing things, but one that directly benefits the upholding of a capitalist culture that encourages people barely afloat to begin with to look the other way when they realize the horrible game we all are in. The ones who profited and are entertained both in and out of the game are the billionaire class. Even in Squid Game Season 1, when gi-hun and the secret billionaire old guy started gambling on a homeless person's life in the snow outside, reflects the comfortability that the billionaire class has with judging and gamifying people's existence for their entertainment. Maybe this should have been a warning to the viewer as to the comfort level gi-hun had in readily agreeing to gamble with somebody else's life. And he is kind of stupid for not thinking he could go help that person himself. But perhaps in order to combat the ideology of the billionaire class, gi-hun feels like he has to play it by their rules. After having been in the Squid Games for a few days, gi-hun disappoints me greatly. Gi-hun's choice right before he leads a militant proletariat revolution against the Squid soldiers he suggests sacrificing his fellow players. Specifically, he elects not to warn them that the other players who voted to continue the games are likely going to attack and kill them. If there are fatalities, it will guarantee that the Squid officers will have to stop the fight, is a likely defense. But truly, this line goes against so much of Gi-hun's character, especially once you remember that last season they put up the barricade around themselves that night, and people still ended up dying. There was no reason not to resist the attacks from the other players and to leave them to die. The ideological battle was lost for me in that moment, I think. I was just ready for season 3 at that point. I was just, ugh. Additionally, I know that a lot of the arcs weren't complete yet because they knew they were going for a season 3 that I at least was unaware of at the time. But that really grinds my gears because in their incomplete form, they truly didn't say anything. There's little to derive out of season 2. The harassment of the girl, the Squid Game sniper, was a brutal reminder of the inequalities even within the lucky system that rewards self-interested tactics. For the frontman as well to not reveal himself to Gi-hun, and in faking his death and leaving, he also leaves behind their combative ideological differences as though they were never applicable. But because instead we wanted Gi-hun to mourn the Yaoi. That was lame. For me personally, the season became progressively lamer as it went on because I could feel that it wasn't fully committed to the really cool perspectives that it was pitting against each other. At the end of the day, the homeless people should have just killed the recruiter and divided up the bread and the lottery tickets. This real life shit ain't a game as much as the billionaire class and those that glaze them want us to believe it is. Speaking of that real life shit, there was an insane thing that happened here in the States in between those two seasons, season 2 and season 3, and I believe it really is a perfect reflection of the show that we should discuss before diving into season 3. Mr. Beast's Beast Games. I truly hold that the writers gave up in their attempt at political dialogue after their series not only got co-opted by Netflix and mass-produced as a part of capitalism, but Mr. Beast's dumbass turned it into a prime TV show, reality TV show. Why the fuck did we do it in real life? Are you stupid? The answer is yes. Mr. Beast contributed to the direct harm of so many of his game participants. Read this New York Times article, yo. We're gonna read the article. That's all. Bro, it's bad. During an intake process this year, several contestants told the New York Times that they had been asked whether they would be willing to be buried alive or travel to outer space. One contestant recalled being asked if she would be able to swim to shore if thrown overboard from a boat. I understand that such activities may cause me death, illness, or serious bodily injury, and including but not limited to exhaustion, dehydration, overexertion, burns, and heat stroke, read a line in a contract reviewed by the Times that applicants were required to sign. Such language is commonplace in a reality television contracts. What they did not expect, however, were the more mundane yet potentially dangerous inconveniences that they said had befallen them during the competition. Speaking with New York Times on the condition of anonymity due to non-disclosure agreements, over a dozen people who participated in the first installment of Beast Games said that they had not received adequate food or medical care and that some competitors had suffered injuries from physical challenges. The event was being filmed for Mr. Donaldson's YouTube channel to select contestants to participate in the Amazon MGM show later this summer. Some contestants left the competition arena on stretchers, the contestant said, though it was unclear if any of those contestants had faced serious medical conditions. Another described watching fellow contestants vomiting and appearing to pass out. There were several hospitalizations. In a text message, a spokesperson for Mr. Beast said the shoot was unfortunately complicated by the CrowdStrike incident, extreme weather, and other unexpected logistical and communications issues. The spokesperson said Mr. Beast had started a formal review and had taken steps to ensure that we will learn from this experience. Yo, what's good, King? What happened?
They just indicted James Comey.
Holy shit!
Indicted James Comey.
Holy shit!
He's literally going after his political rivals. Oh my god!
Thank you for breaking this to me. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at it right now. Jake Tapper and oh wow.
Yeah.
I was halfway through recording what's it called? Squid Games.
Sorry.
No, sorry, because no sorry. I just meant like I won't be on the game, but oh my goodness. Alright, peace, King.
Jesus Christ, peace. Have a good one. Oh my god.
Shout out my dog, shout out my dog, shout out my dog, shout out my dog. Just for reference, I'm filming this on 9/25, so when this is released in a couple of weeks from now, after I'm able to edit it and find the time to do so with my busy schedule of working and going to school and stuff. Anyways, in a text message, a spokesperson for Mr. Beast said the shoot was unfortunately complicated by the CrowdStrike incident, extreme weather, and other unexpected logistical and communications issues. The spokesperson said Mr. Beast had started a formal review and had taken steps to ensure that we would learn from this experience. Representatives for Amazon MGM Studios declined to comment. Mr. Beast, I'm not going to say his name. That's sorry. And what's his name? John? Jimmy? James. James's content has always relied on the willingness of others, often strangers, to go to extremes to create highly watchable videos. During his meteoric, that's a good word, rise to mega virality, some former employees have spoken out about safety concerns on Mr. Beast's set, but his vast fan base has continued to see him as fundamentally charitable and well-meaning. Now, amid allegations about Beast Games, as well as recent accusations about inappropriate language used by Mr. Beast and a former collaborator, his reputation as well as his multi-million-dollar YouTube empire are on the line. We signed up for the show, but we didn't sign up for not being fed or watered or treated like human beings, one contestant told The Times. That's crazy, bruh. That's crazy. Like many of the other people who appear in Mr. Beast's YouTube videos, some of the contestants said they needed the cash to pay for things like student loans and medical debt. After learning that they would be competing against twice as many people, some say they felt they had been misled about their odds of winning. Several contestants also said that they had not been warned about how little they would be given to eat and how infrequently. They described going long stretches without being fed by the production. One said she had gone over 20 hours both during the games and while they were in Las Vegas before and after filming. Contestants said they had expected the production to provide them with meals for the duration of their time in Nevada. One meal, described by several contestants, included a tiny portion of cold oatmeal, one hard-boiled egg, and a few pieces of raw vegetables. Meals throughout the games were small and sporadic, contestants said. It was difficult to keep track of time without watches or phones, but contestants estimated that they had been fed twice a day, once in the early morning and again in the afternoon or evening. A spokesperson for Mr. Beast said contestants had been offered 3 meals a day. On a few occasions, the production staff passed around small Feastables chocolate bars, oh my god, and filmed some people eating and praising the candy. This is like biblical evil. This is the Beast. People with food allergy and dietary restrictions said they had experienced even more trouble. For the competition, contestants filled out forms detailing their dietary needs. An FAQ document provided to contestants in advance of the event and reviewed by The Times said that all dietary and food restrictions would be taken into consideration. But several contestants said that they had been served food they were allergic to and that alternatives had not been provided. You can't even bring that shit around people, bro. If somebody's allergic to peach, just having the fuzz around them could kill them. We were treated horribly, contestants said. They took on this challenge of 2,000 competitors. They should have known they needed an enormous crew to handle this correctly. Mr. Beast presided over the field as the first scenes of the competition were filmed in the stadium. Contestants described how he had stepped out of a shrine-like structure and onto a platform above $5 million in cash as they were instructed to cheer. We're all just looking up at the sky, screaming at him like he's God, one contestant said. Guards dressed entirely in black, complete with face coverings, flanked the field. During the opening speeches, one contestant recalled that Mr. Beast encouraged the participants to speak up and ask for help from the staff if they needed it. A psychologist also introduced himself to the competitors at the outset, explaining that health and safety were priorities on set, several participants recalled. Reached by phone by The Times after the games, that psychologist, Barry Goldstein, declined to comment on the event. Several contestants said that when they had sought out production staff members for assistance with medical care, food, and hygiene issues, the staff members were often not helpful and appeared disorganized. Some staff members yelled and cursed at a contestant. One participant said, "Oh my goodness." Despite reassurance that contestants' medications would be distributed to them when needed, several contestants said that they did not receive their medication on time, included one person who needed insulin, instead of receiving it hours or even days after their scheduled dosing times. One contestant said she had initially been denied the food she required to take her medication and had been told by the staff members that she didn't actually need to eat. After asking repeatedly, she was given half a banana. That's crazy. How are you going to tell her how her own body works? Contestants were instructed to supply the production staff with a Ziploc bag containing 5 days' worth of undergarments, which would be distributed to contestants once the games were underway. But several contestants said that they had waited hours or even days to receive their clean underwear. Fuck. One woman said that when she and a group of contestants who were menstruating during the event had asked the production staff about getting their underwear more quickly, she had been told it was not a medical emergency, and she recalled that a nearby member of the production staff had laughed at the woman's pleading. And that's because so many women in the United States have endometriosis and just insanely medically painful, like, this shit just isn't even like normal in any capacity. Contestants feel that the staff was overwhelmed by the volume of competitors. In addition to these behind-the-scenes issues, things did not appear to run much more smoothly when it came to the competition itself. The first challenge involved 5 teams of 400 people pulling ropes attached to a 10,000-pound weights as fast as possible. The issues began, participants said, when they were broken into those teams. A scramble for team pennies quickly became chaotic and frightening, several said, describing a crush of people. Crowd crush, oh my god, pushing and shoving other contestants while the production staff was unable to calm the crowd. One contestant described hyperventilating amid the scene. Another said she had been almost horizontal and had feared being trampled. God. Some male contestants refused to pass pennies to female contestants, with the results that one of the teams were predominantly women, contestants said. Several people interviewed for this article felt they had not had a fair chance at winning the prize given the way the teams were formed. One contestant said she had left the stadium bruised and bleeding after being injured and eliminated in the first challenge. She was handed $1,000 and a stack of dollar bills as a consolation prize, but she said she had to hand the money back to producers after the cameras were off. Competitors were told they would receive their real payments later, but she said as of the publication time, she has not yet been paid. Several contestants told the Times they had since been contacted by the production team and were offered an additional $1,000. While contestants were free to leave the competition at any time, many stayed behind despite the conditions, hoping to win the grand prize. Those who made it past the first challenge were given toiletry kits, sleeping bags, and slept on the stadium's turf floor. Contestants said it was difficult to get sleep during the game, noting they had often been expected to sleep during daylight hours in the sunny stadium and film challenge takes at night. One contestant said she had expected that difficulty, given that there had been other elements of sleep deprivation in Mr. Beast's previous competitions. That's crazy, bro. Especially to not tell them as well. You just have to sleep outside with the sun right above your head in Nevada. Not Nevada. Yeah, Nevada, Vegas. What the hell? The 1,000 participants who made it through all 4 challenges in the stadium without being eliminated are now preparing for the next stage of the competition, which is set to be filmed in Canada in early August. This was an article from July. One contestant, a self-professed longtime fan of Mr. Beast, who is still in the game, said she was nervous about her safety but planned to continue. We're grateful that virtually all of those invited to our Toronto production have enthusiastically accepted our invitation, Mr. Beast spokesperson said. In screenshots from a group chat provided at the time, some of the remaining contestants appeared unbothered by the experience. They had signed a contract that they were willing to die for this. Yes, I read damn near the whole article. Fuck Mr. Beast. What the fuck? Why would you do this to people who look up to you, who needed you? That's crazy. For content, for an Amazon gambling show, MGM? He wanted money. It's because Mr. Beast wanted money and didn't even think of these people as human beings who, like, have to go to the bathroom and shit. Anyways, Season 2 leaves us at a cliffhanger that made me feel a plethora of things. Squid Game Season 2. Squid Games had a violent proletariat revolution, and it was awesome. Gi-hun, for whatever reason, was comfortable with letting innocent people get killed during the night as long as he could use the distraction to fight shortly thereafter. High key. Stupid. Big plot hole and moral failing. Especially when compared to how he protected people in the first season, like, it would not have changed the plan at all to build a little fort ahead of time. The results generally could have been the same, I think. I don't know. I don't understand this writing decision, except for maybe showing Gi-hun growing desensitized himself to how his peers are used and killed for really no reason, to the point where he feels comfy doing it too, or playing with their lives in that capacity. Anyways, all that aside. Revolution! They went hella far, but they got betrayed, and a bunch of them died, and they were close, but no cigar. And maybe they never really had a chance. I don't know. But it felt close. Either way, the revolution failed, and we reckoned with the fact that those who cannot handle the front lines are meant to be there type deal, specifically referring to that kid. That was the Season 2 cliffhanger, just the failing of the revolution. What does Season 3 offer? Season 3 really disappointed me in so many ways, and I genuinely again hold that it's because of a recognition from the writers that their shit was getting co-opted in the worst possible ways. Anyway, Season 3 starts off with Gi-hun absolutely tweaking over the failure of his revolution and the death of his friends. So he kills the kid. That's it, actually. No reflection, no change of heart. He just does, in fact, give in to killing that child. I'm hating because it was a stupid decision, I think. I loved the hide-and-seek knife fight game. What an amazing set, an amazing speed, and oh my goodness, everything that was happening with the other characters was so tense and so exciting, but little politics. I think, I don't know, at least not from the face of the show. Gi-hun took the blame he felt for himself and put it on an innocent child, and even if he kind of sort of recognizes that within himself, that's just kind of it. The rest of the show is really a sick jump rope game that only matters politically because Gi-hun, this is what the online streets are saying, transforms back into believing in humanity by choosing to protect the baby that one of the characters had just given birth to? I don't know, bruh. Then in the last game, the baby daddy was predictably a bitch, and Gi-hun sacrifices himself to kill the baby daddy and ensure that the baby is the winner of the games. Because he completes his transformation and believes in humanity again? Bruh. The ending message is kicking the can down the road? Like, I don't even know, bro. That shit pissed me off. What a lame ending. And maybe I'm just too much of a political nerd. The only thing I care about is the overarching political whatevers, or at least what I wanted to talk about here. Obviously, there were tons of other great stuff happening that season, both seasons, but they dropped the ball on the most important part, which is the politics. We started out so strong just to end up with the lamest, most liberal institution defending response. Keep in mind that when the founding fathers of the US utilized this mentality, they did it with slavery. And it resulted in a civil war. Kicking the can down the road, I mean. That'll be somebody else's problem. Oh, that'll be somebody else's problem. That'll be somebody else's problem. Bloodiest war in US history. Fuck the Confederacy. I got pube hairs older than the Confederacy. We don't flash to a different possible future or anything? At the end, it's literally just sequel bait? Oh my god. Like, really, dude? Like, oh. I would not blame the writers if they ended the series in this nothing unsubstantive way, at least politically, because again, the show is so well shot and the games themselves are so cool and creative and the sets are fantastic. I'm just a nerd and all I give a fuck about is politics. Intentionally, if they did all that shit intentionally, unsubstantively intentionally, out of a kind of protest for how their show has been franchised and milked like a cash cow by everyone and their mama and Mr. Beast. I will not be watching the American version, dude. Fuck that shit. Oh! Season 3 ending was even lamer than the platform because at least the fact that the representative innocence in the child being born in the platform pit was a bridge too far and was a clear rallying symbol to end the platform's existence to begin with. But with Squid Games, just kind of says it'll be the next generation's problem. Very disheartening. What did y'all think about the politics of Squid Game Season 3? Was there anything I missed? Please let me know if there's anything I missed. At least from a leftist point of view, anti-capitalist point of view, which was the intent of the show and of most South Korean media. If you know, you know. Shout out Parasite. Comment below. Have a good one, y'all. Long ass video. Peace out. much fun.